They say some moments haunt you forever. Not the loud ones. Not the kind that shatter windows or end with slammed doors. No. The ones that whisper. The ones that sneak in like a breeze and settle in your chest like fog, quiet, heavy, unshakable. It's been 2 years since that night. And I still can't sleep on the left side of the bed. Not because of what happened there, but because of what started before it. Before anything physical. Before any touch. Before any kiss. It started with something so much more dangerous, being seen. You know that look someone gives you when they really see you? Not the version you perform. Not the mom. Not the wife. Not the I'm fine mask you wear to breakfast and PDA meetings. But you. The tired, aching, hollowed out parts. The woman beneath all the doing. That's where this began. I didn't plan to get involved. I didn't dress up for it. I didn't flirt into it. I didn't go looking for trouble. But sometimes trouble looks exactly like comfort. Exactly like someone asking, "Are you okay?" and meaning it. I just wanted to help him. That's the part that still makes me sick. Because it's true. He was hurting, fresh off a brutal divorce, staying in our guest room, sleeping too much, barely eating. He looked like a man unraveling. And I've always been the one who fixes. It started small. Leftovers on a plate. A folded blanket. A late-night chat because he couldn't sleep, and neither could I. You ever had one of those conversations? The kind where time bends, where one sentence slips into the next, and before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and you're telling them things you've never said out loud? Yeah, that. And it felt good. To be needed. To be heard. To laugh at something dumb and realize it's been months since you laughed like that. But no one warns you, do they? No one says, be careful who you comfort. Be careful where you pour your tenderness. Because kindness has a current. And when you're starving for connection, even crumbs feel like a feast. I thought I was being strong. But I was just lonely. So lonely. And when you're lonely, you start mistaking warmth for love. You start reading between the lines. You start listening harder when someone says your name, like it's something precious, not something expected. I kept telling myself it wasn't a big deal. It was harmless. I was helping. I was just being nice. But the truth? No one tells you how fast helping turns into holding. How holding turns into hiding. How hiding becomes a habit. And once you're hiding something, you're already too far gone. I know how this sounds. I know what you might be thinking. But I need you to hear me when I say I didn't set out to break anything. I was just tired of being invisible. And he looked at me like I wasn't. And that's where the real danger starts. Not in the bedroom, but in the moments before. The quiet. The glances. The pauses between words. Because betrayal doesn't always wear a red dress or come wrapped in sweat and urgency. Sometimes it wears a sweater. Sips tea. Sits on the edge of a couch and says, "You deserve more than this." That's how it started. And if you've ever been there, if you've ever felt seen by the wrong person at the right time, then you already know. It never stays innocent for long. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Because this is where silence becomes story. And where broken hearts finally speak. He moved in after the divorce. Just for a few weeks, they said. But what he brought with him wasn't just a suitcase, it was silence. And I knew that silence too well. The kind that fills a room even when no one's speaking. The kind that settles in your bones. Familiar. Heavy. I'm 34. Married for 9 years. 2 kids. A decent house. A decent life if you just look at the pictures. But I was tired. Not just from the kids or the chores. Tired in my soul. The kind of tired you don't talk about. The kind that builds slowly until you don't even recognize the woman brushing her teeth in the mirror. I've always been the fixer. The one who smooths things over. The one who says it's fine even when it's not. My husband, he's not a bad man. He's just not present. Always working. Always distracted. Always somewhere else, even when he's in the room. We stopped talking about real things a long time ago. Conversations became schedules. Touch became routine. I don't remember the last time he looked at me like I was me, not just someone managing his life. So when his cousin showed up, heartbroken, freshly divorced, eyes full of pain, I saw myself in him. Different stories, same ache. He was quieter than I remembered. Stayed in the guest room mostly. Didn't eat much. Didn't say much. But when we crossed paths, something unspoken passed between us. Recognition, maybe. That invisible thread that connects two people who know what it's like to feel alone in a full house. He never overstepped. Never flirted. But there was a softness in the way he listened. A slowness in the way he responded. Like every word mattered. And maybe that's what got to me. Because I was used to being background noise. A moving part in everyone else's machine. But with him, I felt like a whole person again. Not someone's wife. Not someone's mother. Just me. I'd hear him in the kitchen late at night. Microwave humming. Cabinet doors opening. Sometimes I'd go down too. Pretend I needed water. Or tea. Or anything that gave me a reason to stand next to someone who noticed me. He never asked why I was awake. But he'd pour me a cup anyway. And we'd sit. Not saying much. Just breathing in the quiet. The house during the day was full of noise, kids yelling, phones ringing, laundry machines thumping. But those nights? They were still. And in that stillness, I started to feel things I hadn't felt in years. Not attraction. Not desire. Just warmth. Like standing in sunlight after months of winter. He never touched me. Never crossed a line. But there was a way he looked at me when I spoke. Like what I said mattered. Like he saw past my tired eyes and into the parts of me I'd forgotten how to name. That kind of attention, it does something to you. Especially when you've been starving for it. And I didn't tell anyone. Not because I had something to hide. But because I didn't want anyone to ruin it. Not even me. At night, when I lay next to my husband, I'd close my eyes and wonder, when did we stop reaching for each other? And why did it take another man's silence to make me feel alive again? It was late. The kind of late where even the clocks seemed quieter. Everyone was asleep. Except us. I heard him moving in the kitchen again, mug clinking, kettle hissing, and I went down, same as always. But this night felt different. He didn't just hand me the tea. He waited. He looked at me for a long time, like he was weighing something heavy in his chest. Then he said, "She told me I was too much. Too sensitive. Too quiet. Too needy. She said she couldn't breathe around me." His voice didn't shake. But his hands did. Just a little. He sat down at the table, fingers curled around the mug like it was the only thing holding him together. And he started talking. About the divorce. How she stopped saying goodnight. How she stopped looking at him. How she once turned away when he cried and told him to man up. He talked about therapy. About the meds he stopped taking. About the nights he drove around with nowhere to go because the house felt colder than the outside air. I didn't interrupt. I just listened. And he noticed that. You could tell. In the way his shoulders dropped. In the way his words slowed, like he was finally breathing right for the first time in months. Then he looked at me, really looked, and said, "You don't judge. You just sit with me like I'm not broken." I don't know what came over me. I reached out, touched his hand, just meant it as comfort. But he didn't let go. And neither did I. It was only a second. Maybe two. But in that tiny moment, something passed between us. Not passion. Not lust. Just presence. And when you've gone so long without being seen, presence feels like love. Even when it's not. We didn't kiss. We didn't say anything else. We just sat there, palms touching like two people holding on to the edge of something they don't want to name. Eventually, I stood up. Said goodnight. Went back upstairs. But I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling. And thought about how easy it had become to lie to myself. That night didn't end in bed. But something else ended my resolve. My certainty. That quiet belief that I could control where this was heading. Because after that night, the rules changed. And deep down, I think we both knew it. I told myself I was just being kind. That's all it was. Kindness. But kindness. Kindness doesn't linger in the kitchen at midnight. Kindness doesn't make your heart race when someone walks into the room. Kindness doesn't replay moments on a loop in your mind like a song you can't stop humming. Still, I clung to that word like it could save me. Like if I called it kindness, it wouldn't become something else. A few days after that night, I planned a family dinner. Just us. I lit candles, set the table, tried to recreate something that used to feel like home. My husband texted 20 minutes before it started. Stuck at work. Order something. Sorry. That was it. No call. No question about the kids. No apology that sounded like a real one. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. Then I turned it face down and sat at the table with 2 empty chairs. He came in quietly. The cousin. Took one look at the food, then at me, and didn't say anything. Just sat down across from me. And ate. He didn't ask why my eyes were red. Didn't press when I barely touched my plate. He just stayed. Like he knew I needed someone to. When my phone buzzed again, my husband, another meaningless text, I flinched. I didn't even realize I'd done it until the cousin looked at me. And something in his face shifted. Softened. He didn't say, "Are you okay?" But I felt the question all over me. I nodded anyway, even though I wasn't. That night, I dreamt I was standing at the edge of a cliff, wearing my wedding dress. No wind, no sound, just stillness. And he was there. Not my husband. Him. He held out his hand. Said nothing. Just waited. I woke up breathless. And that's when I realized. I didn't know if I was falling for him or for the version of myself he made me feel like again. Because when he looked at me, I wasn't tired. I wasn't fading. I wasn't someone's afterthought. I was real. Present. Whole. It's terrifying. How easily emotional absence makes room for emotional betrayal. And betrayal, it doesn't always begin with bodies. It begins with eyes. With shared silence. With understanding. And when someone understands you without asking for anything in return, it's so easy to start building a home in that space. Even when you know you shouldn't. Even when your hands are still wearing a ring. I kept telling myself nothing had happened. But everything had. Late-night conversations became the norm. It stopped being occasional. It became a rhythm. The kettle would whistle. The lights would dim. And we'd meet in that quiet space between exhaustion and confession. Some nights we didn't talk about anything deep. Just music. Or childhood. Or favorite foods. And yet, somehow, every word felt intimate. Like the kind of conversation you only have under covers or after crying. I caught myself laughing again. The real kind. The kind that shakes your shoulders and surprises you. And I started paying more attention to my reflection. Putting on mascara in the mornings. Choosing earrings again. Not for anyone in particular. But maybe for him. Maybe for me. I wasn't sure where the line was anymore. But I knew we were towing it every single night. Then one evening. It just happened. I had a rough day. The kind where everything felt sharp. And I went to the kitchen, already holding back tears. He was there. Leaning against the counter like he was waiting for something, but maybe he just knew. I don't remember what I said. Just that it broke. Whatever wall I had left. And I let myself cry. Really cry. He didn't say much. He just stepped forward and pulled me into his arms. And I didn't pull away. It was supposed to be a hug. A simple, human comfort. But we didn't let go. We just stood there. Holding. Breathing. Saying everything we weren't allowed to say, without a single word. That was the first time I realized how far we'd gone. Without going anywhere. The next morning, he made coffee before I could. Left it on the counter with a note. You don't have to hold everything alone. My hands shook reading it. Because I'd forgotten what it felt like to be held, Emotionally, I mean. A few days later, I was chopping vegetables, and he leaned in to grab something from the top shelf. His arm brushed mine, and he froze. Then said, softly, "You're the first person who makes me feel whole again." I should have corrected him. I should have changed the subject. But I didn't, because the worst part wasn't what he said. The worst part was that I wanted to believe him, because I didn't feel whole. I felt cracked. And in that moment, being his glue felt easier than being my own. Things kept slipping. Touches lasted longer. Smiles lingered. Words carried weight they shouldn't have. One evening, we were sitting in the living room. Kids asleep. TV on low, but neither of us watching. We were close. Too close. Our knees brushed. We didn't move. And for a moment, the whole room felt like it was holding its breath. And then the door opened. My husband. Home early. Unexpected. He stopped in the doorway. Looked at us. Really looked. No one said anything. Not him. Not me. Not the cousin. But I felt it. The shift. The temperature change. The unspoken question burning in his eyes. We weren't doing anything wrong. But we weren't doing anything right either. That was the first time I felt scared. Not of being caught, but of being seen for what I was starting to become. It was raining. The kind of rain that soaks through walls. The kind that hums through the air like a warning. The lights flickered around 8. By 9, the power was out completely. The house sank into darkness, soft, quiet, pulsing. The kids were already asleep, tucked in and unaware. Their night lights dead. Their rooms still. I lit candles in the kitchen. The glow was warm, flickering, like the kind of light that knows how to keep a secret. He came in holding a blanket and 2 glasses of wine. Didn't say anything, just nodded toward the living room. I followed. We sat on opposite ends of the couch at first. But the silence between us didn't feel empty. It felt full. Full of everything we hadn't said, and everything we were afraid to admit. The rain drummed harder on the windows. The wind pressed against the walls. And in that small cocoon of flickering candlelight, it felt like we were the only 2 people in the world. He looked at me. And for the first time, he didn't look away. His voice was soft when he said it. "What is this between us?" I swallowed hard. Tried to laugh. Tried to turn it into something light. But I couldn't. Because it wasn't light. It was weight. Weight I'd been carrying in my chest for weeks. "I don't know," I said. And it was the truth. Because I didn't. He moved a little closer. Not all at once. Just a shift. The blanket brushed both our knees. His hand rested between us. Close. Waiting. I should have stood up. I should have said, "This can't happen." But I didn't. Because I didn't want to. He leaned in slowly. Like he was giving me every second to stop it. And I didn't. When his lips touched mine, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was reverent. Like we were burying everything we hadn't said in that kiss. All the ache. All the loneliness. All the silent hunger. It didn't last long, but it felt endless. When we pulled apart, we both looked down. Not in shame. Not yet. But in realization. Something had broken. And we couldn't unbreak it. We didn't go further. Didn't touch more. Didn't speak for a while. He stood up first. Said goodnight like the words still meant something. And I sat there long after he left the room. Wine untouched. Heart loud. Because I knew. We hadn't just crossed a line. We had burned the map entirely. The next morning, I didn't go down for breakfast. I waited until I heard the front door close. I needed to be alone in the silence before the day began. He had already left. No note. No coffee waiting. No candlelight. Just gone. And I felt it. The emptiness. The echo of a kiss we never should have shared. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Couldn't stand the sound of my own breath. Everything suddenly felt louder. My footsteps, my thoughts, my guilt. I avoided him for the next 2 days. I made excuses, kept busy, took the kids out more often, stayed in my room once they were asleep. And still, every time I passed the guest room, my heart clenched. My husband started noticing. He asked me if something was going on. Said I seemed distracted. Asked if I was okay. But not in the way someone really wants an answer. Just the surface-level concern of a man who'd been gone for too long and was only now realizing something was slipping beneath his nose. I told him I was tired. That the power outage had thrown me off. That work and the kids were a lot. He nodded, like that was enough. But his eyes lingered on me longer than usual. And I felt it, the shift, the suspicion. I started deleting messages. Not that there were many. Just short exchanges. Innocent on the surface. But I knew what they meant. What I meant when I wrote them. And that was enough to make my hands shake every time I opened my phone. I kept replaying that night. The candlelight. The closeness. The kiss. I didn't cheat. Not technically. But the way my heart beat around him? That was betrayal. Quiet. Slow. Real. One evening, he pulled me aside in the hallway. His eyes were tired. Worn down. There was a sadness in his voice I hadn't heard before. He said, "I'm going to find my own place." I didn't ask why. I didn't beg him to stay. I just nodded. Because I knew. He packed his things quietly the next morning. Didn't hug the kids. Didn't say goodbye to my husband. I stood by the window and watched him load the last bag into his car. He didn't look up. Didn't glance back. Just got in and drove away. And when the silence came rushing back into the house, it didn't feel peaceful. It felt hollow. Like something had ended. Even though it never truly began. I found our wedding photo the other day. It was tucked behind an old stack of birthday cards in the drawer I never open unless I'm avoiding myself. I pulled it out, dusted off the corner, and just stared. He was smiling. I was too, but not in the way I remember. I looked, polished, put together, perfect, but the woman in that photo didn't feel like me anymore. She felt like a version I created for everyone else. The girl who said yes because it was time, because it looked right, because she thought love was showing up, doing the work, keeping the peace even when it didn't feel like peace inside. I stood there, holding that photo, and asked myself something I'd never dared say out loud. Did I ever love him? Or did I just stay because I thought that's what love was supposed to look like? I don't know. And maybe that's what scares me most. I haven't spoken to his cousin since he left. Not a text. Not a message. Not a sign. And yet, he's everywhere. In the empty kitchen at night. In the way I hesitate before answering my husband's questions. In the part of me that still checks the driveway, without meaning to. I miss him. Not just the man, but the feeling of being noticed, heard, held without being touched. But more than him, I miss me, the version of myself he pulled to the surface. The woman who laughed louder, stood taller, felt alive, even just for a little while. He made me remember that I wasn't always tired. That there was once light in me, not just function. And that's the thing I keep coming back to. I wanted to help him. And I couldn't resist. But the truth? He helped me too. More than I ever expected. More than I can explain. He helped me realize that love without attention isn't love at all. It's duty. It's survival. It's a slow erasing of the self. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. How to forgive myself for wanting something that wasn't mine. Or how to keep pretending that nothing happened when everything inside me feels different. But I do know this. You can be faithful in action and still feel like a traitor in your heart. You can stay and still feel gone. And you can kiss someone once, just once, and never feel whole again without it. Have you ever tried to help someone, only to realize you were the one being saved? That's the part no one talks about. How sometimes the rescue doesn't come with sirens. Sometimes, it's a glance across a room. A shared silence. A hand on yours for just a second too long, and before you know it, you're standing in a place you never meant to be, but don't want to leave. So I'm asking you, not as someone who has it all figured out, but as someone still untangling the threads, have you ever crossed a line in your heart, even when your body stayed behind it? Have you ever let someone in, not because you wanted to betray, but because, for the first time in so long, you finally felt seen? Drop your truth in the comments. No judgment. Just a space for honesty. If this story stirred something in you, if it echoed even a small part of your own, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The next tale might be the one you've never dared to say out loud. Some betrayals don't begin in bedrooms. They begin in empty kitchens, in silent glances, in kindness left unguarded. I don't know where he is now. I don't know if he thinks of me. I don't know if he ever wonders what might have happened if we'd gone further, or if he carries the same quiet ache that I do. But I know this: you can love someone and still be lonely. You can stay and still feel lost. You can want to help someone and still end up breaking things you never meant to touch. He came into my life when I was unraveling, and I thought I was doing the saving. But sometimes, the line between comfort and collapse is paper thin. And we don't see the fire until everything is already warm. Not every fire burns bright. Some just smolder in your chest for the rest of your life.